Hello, everyone. Today, I want to tell you about every major conflict in pre-Russ's Ukraine. I'll cover events from the Scythian invasions of the Middle East to the First Rus-Byzantine War in 830 AD. So let's begin. The first recorded conflict involving the Scythians and Middle Eastern countries dates back to 670 BCE when they united with the Cimmerians to invade Assyria. Following this invasion, the Scythians formed an alliance with Assyria and in 653 BCE invaded Media, establishing a puppet regime. They also invaded Egypt, forcing Pharaoh Psammetichus I to pay tribute. In 614 BCE, the Medes invaded Assyria, and the Scythians successfully defended Nineveh, the Assyrian capital. However, just a year later, the Scythians allied with the Medes and helped them conquer the Assyrian capital. Decades later, when the Achaemenid Empire rose to power, Darius I launched a campaign against Scythia in 513 BCE. The Scythians avoided direct combat and used scorched earth tactics, depriving the Persian army of food and water, ultimately forcing their retreat. The Scythians' dominance began to wane in 331 BCE when Alexander the Great crossed the Danube and defeated the Scythians at the Battle of the Jaxartes. This marked the decline of Scythian influence in the region. The final significant conflict involving Scythia was the Scytho-Pontic War in 114 BCE. By the 100s BCE, the Sarmatians weakened the Scythians, and the Kingdom of Pontus rose to power in northern Anatolia. The main cause of the war was control over trade routes. Scythia was decisively defeated during Pontus's Crimean campaign, losing Crimea entirely. Now let's analyze Scythia's success rate in wars. Scythia won all its campaigns in the Middle East and its war with Persia, but lost its last two wars. This gives Scythia a total win rate of 71.4%. The next entity is the Antes Confederation, which participated in three major conflicts worth discussing. The Antes were one of the ancestors of modern East Slavic culture and played a key role in the unification process. The first conflict was the Anto-Gothic Wars, which erupted around 300 AD when the Goths conquered southern Antes lands. The Antes mainly lost these wars, but the arrival of the Huns forced the Goths to retreat from modern Ukraine. However, this war destabilized the Confederation. The second conflict was the Balkan raids of the Antes around 550 AD. The Antes allied with the Lombards and began devastating the Balkan regions of the Byzantine Empire, including Thrace and Dacia. The conflict peaked in 626 AD when the Antes unsuccessfully attempted to take Constantinople. Despite this failure, the raids contributed to the Slavicization of the Balkans, except for Greece, making this conflict a relative success for the Antes. The final conflict was the Anto-Avar Wars in the 7th century. The Avar Khaganate emerged in Central Asia and began raiding the Antes Confederation. Avar raids under Khagan Bayan severely weakened the Antes. Although the Byzantines occasionally supported the Antes along the Danube, the Avars ultimately destroyed the Confederation. The Antes win rate, based on these wars, is approximately 33.3%, placing them second in our ranking. Finally, let's discuss the theoretical state of Kuyavaya, located in modern-day Kiev Oblast. Kuyavaya was ruled by Askold from 860 to 882 AD. Kuyavaya's wars were primarily against the Byzantine Empire. The first conflict occurred in 830 AD, with Kuyavayan forces successfully raiding northern Anatolia. The second war broke out in 860 AD, when Askold led a raid on Constantinople. This conflict ended inconclusively, as Byzantine sources do not explain why Askold retreated. The final war was the Rus' Byzantine War of 867. Similar to the War of 830, the Kuyavians raided Byzantine territory but were ultimately repelled. If we assign 1 point for a victory and 0.5 for inconclusive outcomes, Kuyavia's total score is 50%, placing it second in the rankings ahead of the Antes. So this concludes our journey through the early conflicts of pre-Rus's Ukraine. From the rise and fall of the Scythians to the bold raids of the Antes and Kuyavia, these events highlight the dynamic history of this region long before the establishment of Kievan Rus. By analyzing these conflicts, we can see how the cultural and political foundations of Eastern Europe were forged through both triumphs and defeats. I am very sorry for voicing with bots. My voice is breaking, so I can't normally voice videos. Next one will be about Pre-Rus.